What do you get when you combine Christopher Lee, werewolves, Transylvania, and boobs? Lots and lots of boobs. Apparently, you get the Howling II. The movie begins with a trip to the Twilight Zone. I mean, a biblical narration from Stefan Krasko, played by the late Sir Christopher Lee. He's providing the general tone for the movie, or at least the tone that was aimed for. That skeleton standing behind him is the scariest thing you're gonna see in this. I'm warning you now.
On her forehead was written, "Behold, I am the great mother of harlots and all abominations of the earth."
She must have had a pretty big forehead if all that was written on it.
What the fuck are you looking at?
After the architect's wet dream, that is the opening credits, we go to Los Angeles to attend Karen White's funeral.
Nothing we can say or do can bring Karen back.
And that includes a paycheck, because that is not Dee Wallace. After the funeral dies down, we meet Jenny Templeton, played by Anne McEnroe, who was a colleague of Karen's, and Karen's brother Ben, played by Reb Brown. Stefan is trying to tell Ben that Karen's soul is in danger, but Ben isn't very receptive to what he has to say at the moment. But Jenny is, so she asks him what he knows about Karen.
I know that she is a werewolf.
Oh, we're just gonna jump right in there. No nuance, no foreplay, nothing?
What'd he say?
He said your sister is a werewolf.
That's it, that's the title! Cut, print, check dates. A quick glimpse in on Karen shows that she does indeed seem to be alive. And then we're at the club. This is the band Babel with their aptly named song, The Howling. No, I can't do this. It's like your grandfather who's trying to be hip, but all he knows about fashion is what he's seen from Saved by the Bell. Regardless, while Stefan is browsing the club scene, he spots Mariana, played by Marcia A. Hunt, lure a group of punks away to an abandoned warehouse. But instead of engaging in some group activities, Mariana and some other werewolves, I assume, tear them all to pieces. And with a hairstyle like the one the blonde had, I'm not surprised at all he got eaten. You know who did a better supernatural being? Lures unsuspecting victims into their den while new wave music plays? Scene The Hunger. Sometime later, Jenny and Ben pay Stefan a visit, since Jenny insists that he must know something, aside from what he already told her, that is. Stefan reaffirms that Karen is a werewolf, and is still alive, since the silver bullets she was shot with were removed. He also tells them that Karen had been working to uncover the truth about werewolves that were living among them all over the world. Not only that, but she arranged her own death. Stefan has the whole broadcast of what happened videotaped, and it looks nothing like the ending of The Howling. Stefan continues to explain that some werewolves, like Mariana, are immune to silver, which means that only titanium can hurt them. First time hearing of this, but whatever. They have two things to prepare for. One being Karen is going to be broken out of her resting place tonight. The other is that the coming full moon is the birthday, if you will, of the Queen of the Werewolves, otherwise known as Stirba. During this time, all werewolves will be revealed, and Stirba will have to be destroyed.
Drive a stake through a werewolf's heart.
Excuse me, I think you're getting your supernatural creatures confused here. All Stefan's work still doesn't convince Ben, who decides he's going to kill Stefan when he goes to stake Karen. However, the cemetery is crawling with werewolves, which makes things a little more difficult. So Ben goes Rambo for a moment as a defense mechanism.
Don't let him get away!
Oh yeah, that'll do it. After capturing this geriatric lichen named Early, played by the late Ferdinand Main, they learn of Stirba's whereabouts. Where is she, huh? Europe? Estonia? Rome? No, actually, that would be Transylvania, of course. I guess this was all it took to convince Ben into believing everything that Stefan was trying to tell him. So, he and Jenny pledge themselves to Stefan's case, and the three of them head to Transylvania. Also arriving in the country is Mariana, who meets up with one of Stirba's own, Vlad, played by Judd Omen, and just in time for the BDSM club meeting. Actually, it would appear that this is a kind of youth regeneration ritual, where an elderly Stirba, played by Valerie Kaplanova, transforms into Sybil Danning. And isn't that a power that many people would like? Then ensues the hairiest threesome you've ever seen, hopefully.
Stefan, where are you going?
Why are you leaving?
I'm going to the village. I will see you there later.
You were all literally headed to the same place. I'm just gonna assume that this wasn't a scripted moment, and it was just Sir Lee realizing what he was involved in, and leaving for a break. Later, Jenny and Ben arrive at the hotel.
Good afternoon.
Christopher Lee is no longer the creepiest person in this village. The hotel manager even gives them room 666. Easy, Moira. Leave some of the overdramatic cliche for the rest of us. By the way, apparently Ben and Jenny suddenly can't keep their hands off each other. No, you didn't miss any of the lead up in their relationship. I guess it was just because they're sharing trauma and a room with a view.
Should we follow him?
Why not?
Vasile here, played by the late Jiri Kritner, leads them to a church where Stefan is. Here they're introduced to the rest of the small group, who have vowed vengeance on the evil forces around here. Konstantin, played by the late Peter Skarke, Luca, played by Igor Smirzik, and Father Florin, played by the late Ladislav Krekmer. The plan is for Ben and Jenny to attend the New Moon Festival that evening and keep an eye out for Mariana. She will lead them to Stirba, and Stefan will handle her. But during the festival, it seems that Jenny is unsettled by a puppet show, which brings up some bits of events that she wasn't even present for, so they spend the night in their hotel room. The next day, Ben, Vasile, and Stefan spot Mariana and Vlad, so Ben and Vasile follow them. I'll give Vasile this. He's a damn good shot. Ben and Vasile find Stirba just as Stefan said, and learn that apparently Stefan and Stirba are siblings. Okay. What the fuck part 2 is that Stirba knows magic, I guess. And this is unfortunate for Vasile, because he's dropped his blessed earplugs while he and Ben are running away. While the rest of them are distracted, Tondo, played by Jan Kraus, led Jenny off into the woods. It seems that his plan was to have Jenny all to himself, but Stirba stops him and decides she'll be bait for Stefan. This leads into the only genuinely creepy moment in the whole film. Meanwhile, in the catacombs of Paris, Stefan, Ben, and the others suit up and head off to Sturba's castle, where the orgy is unfolding. My god, they have to stop this honestly very not evil gathering. I would just like to point out that each of these outfits was generously donated by Madonna and her backup dancers. Upon hearing that their enemies are approaching, the whole werewolf gang goes out to greet them. During this whole thing, Ben acts like an NPC companion in a shooting game. Never-ending catchphrases and all. So they essentially get picked off one by one until it's just Stefan, Ben, and Father Florin as they enter the castle. But Stirba dispatches the father with,
My ass would have stayed in the primordial soup if I knew there was gonna be days like this.
Ben kills Vlad and Mariana before rescuing Jenny. At the same time, Stefan faces Stirba, who attempts to seduce him? But of course, Stefan stabs her instead, and they are engulfed in flames. And I don't know what kind of facehugger shit is going on here. Ben and Jenny don't waste any time leaving Transylvania. Our closing scene is a kid dressed as a werewolf trick-or-treating at Ben and Jenny's apartment. Assuming it's their new neighbor's kid, they introduce themselves to the priest, played by Myro Suster, living there, who I'm pretty sure we saw earlier. And with another rendition of The Howling by Babel, along with Sybil Danning ripping her dress off a total of 17 times, the credits roll. Okay, so the movie doesn't feel like it has a firm grasp of what it wanted to do, even though it seems to follow along after the events of The Howling. It somehow also disregards them. Like, how come it seems like nobody saw the broadcast of Karen transforming? The plot has a few different layers to it, and usually I tend to enjoy that, but it was all very convoluted here. Some things felt like they were just thrown in for drama, without much thought to them, like Stirba and Stefan being brother and sister. It would have been just fine if they weren't related at all, and Stefan was just a reoccurring presence for Stirba, and vice versa. Speaking of, if Stirba is so fucking old, how is Stefan still alive? Ben and Jenny's romance is rushed and shallow, and so was the climax. If certain werewolves, like Mariana, could only be killed with a titanium stake through the heart, how come regular bullets work just fine. Even though this particular group of werewolves was mentioned as wanting to take over the world, or whatever, it didn't come across like that. I did not get a threatening sense from them, and because of that, there was virtually no tension. Also, the points where jokes or humor was present, it just fell flat. The only time I chuckled was when one of those punks was beamed by a log, but maybe that's just my sadistic side. You know how in The Howling, even when the actors weren't fully presenting as werewolves, they still felt threatening? Yeah, we don't get that here. I'm sorry, but every time someone howled, it was just fucking ridiculous. Maybe it would have been better if they had added some sort of effect to their voices. Nobody does a very commendable job here. Not even Sir Christopher Lee, though I know he was trying. Though I have a feeling he became more and more aware of where this was headed as it went and reacted accordingly. The settings are kind of cool, since a good bit of the film was shot in Czechoslovakia. For what it's worth, you do get to see some of that. These are the better portions as far as scenery and locations go. The atmosphere doesn't even come close to the original, and aside from the club, nothing really stuck out to me. Not even the shots in the woods at night looked good. Once again, we have practical effects, but this time no Rob Bottin. In the makeup and special effects crew's defense, they had apparently been sent the wrong suits for the fully transformed werewolves, so that likely contributed to the overall look of them. And that's the thing, we never really see a full werewolf on screen. It's not terrible, but it really doesn't look great, especially if you compare it to The Howling. I will say though, for what it's worth, when some of the characters were only partially transformed, it looked pretty decent, sometimes. The most memorable bit of music comes from the band Babel. I think their song The Howling was about the only thing I actually liked in the whole movie. Though when you only have one decent song, and you play it over and over and over and over again, it really starts to lose its likability. With all that being said, I'm giving The Howling II, Your Sister is a Werewolf, 4 out of 10 bloody thumbs up. This was a softcore werewolf porn movie with Christopher Lee thrown in, and you can't convince me otherwise. Apparently, it was inspired by new wave eroticism, according to Felipe Moira anyway. Not hard to see that shine through. And though I'm sure there will be some people who disagree with me, you just can't cover up a severely flawed movie with a bunch of boobs, no matter how many or how hairy. The pacing is weird, the editing is off, and it's just such a bizarre case. Not in a very good way either, though I suppose I can see why some people would enjoy this. I am afraid that I'm just not one of those people, but I have a feeling this isn't going to be the worst of the franchise. I would recommend The Howling II to werewolf fans, Christopher Lee fans, anyone wanting to suffer through the Howling franchise, and people who just like to see boobs. See you later.